Welcome to Glowing Success. My name is Heidi and I am your host. This podcast is for beauty entrepreneurs. Join me weekly as we dive into the beauty industry's ins and outs, from business strategies, top-selling services, and taboo topics. I will be interviewing industry leaders with empowering stories and game-changing insights. Let's illuminate your path to success together. Let's jump into this next episode. Well, welcome back to Glowing Success. I'm so excited. My interview today is with Paige. She is the owner and founder of P-Ink Tattoos and Uptown Lashes. And we're going to be talking a little bit about how she has spent majority of her career doing one service and she has shifted it to doing something else. So if this is something that you're kind of thinking about, or you have completely switched what you're doing, you're going to want to tune in. So welcome, Paige.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yay, thanks for coming on today. We've had a lot of technical difficulties today. So you guys, this is focusing on ourselves because it's like, okay, we're making this work. We're making this work. So thank you for being patient with me today too. So for any listener that doesn't know who you are, Paige, can you go into a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your businesses?
Yeah. So of course I'm Paige. I have been in the beauty industry for over 12 years now. I started as a licensed esthetician. And then now I am a licensed tattoo artist. So I started my own business about 10 years ago with Uptown Lashes, just doing lashes, and then got into some education and trainings, and then totally did a 360. And now I am venturing into my new business as a tattoo artist, and that is me being the owner of P-Ink.
Awesome. I mean, this is kind of amazing because I find that I get this question a lot, and actually the classes I teach in person, sometimes this comes up too. So that's why also I wanted to interview you, because I do think it's something that people need to think about. Like, if you've spent majority of your career doing one service, let's say, and then all of a sudden you get interested in something else, whether it be like you saw it, you got it done, you took a training for it, like an advanced training, you took a CEU course. It doesn't matter how that came into your life, but sometimes we have to trust that instinct and that push and that, that draw in life. And I think that's so fascinating, because I do think that's actually becoming more normal for people. Like, they'll do one thing because maybe they felt like that's what they were really good at, that's what their passion was at that time, and now they're doing something else. So I really think that's amazing. You specifically converted into doing tiny tattoos and fine line tattoos, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And so I think that's really popular. And honestly, it's an interesting shift too, because so you have all this group of clients that you've built up over these years that now trust you. They trust everything about you. They have good relationships with you. You've built that good rapport. And so now when you're building another business and a totally different service, you'll find that probably some of those clients from your previous business have followed you into your new, or is this not correct?
Yes, in ways, because the transition of both services is one where lashes is super habitual, and
Yes.
They're coming in consistently, versus tattoos could be a one-time thing,
Right.
or
Right.
it could be you just are coming frequently, or every so years. But
Yeah.
yes, I've definitely had some good lash clients turn into tattoo clients.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
I think that's exciting. And I've just seen such a big, I don't know, it's become really popular online, at least for people getting fine line tattoos and getting tiny tattoos. So I think that's kind of fun. It's kind of similar to how permanent jewelry got really, really popular, right? I feel like there's some transitions here that are happening, but I do feel like that trust factor of hey, you have a little bit of experience with the beauty industry and kind of aesthetics, and you're not just coming from a heavy tattoo background, right? So you weren't just coming from doing a lot of really large detailed tattoos. You came from more of an aesthetic background. So I do think it's an easier shift. I do think that's why some people have shifted towards that, because, aesthetically, we're kind of always doing things that are pleasing to the eye, and things for beauty, and things for, to make your client feel better. And I do think fine line tattoos and tiny tattoos fit that category. I think it's been so beautiful to see it online. And I love that, because it's fun to watch people. And so I will say, like, I'm going to share with everybody in the show notes of like how they can find you. And of course, I'll have you say that towards the end of the episode here too.
Yeah.
But like, it is fun to see it online. Like, it's so fun to see that, you know, that transition. Now, for anybody that's interested in transitioning, specifically how Paige did, like going from maybe aesthetics to tattooing, it's different in every state. So I will say that. But in the state of Minnesota, you have to train and do your apprenticeship, which is 200 hours, and then you get your tattoo license. So it is a more of a commitment, right? Like, I
Yes.
mean, you had to commit to training, you had to commit to apprenticeship, you had to commit to the art of it. So, you know, it's not just if you're listening, you're thinking, well, this is going to be easy and I can do something else and I can pick something else up. It's not necessarily as easy as that. Like, were you always passionate about tattoos? I see you have tattoos, like, and you show some of your tattoos online. So was that something?
Yeah. It's funny. I used to always like joke when I was younger, like, oh, I would love to be a tattoo artist because yes, I am fully tatted. I just love tattoo. For me, it was like a therapy and an artistic, creative way to express, myself. So I would always kind of joke, like, gosh, I wish I would, but it just always seemed like unreachable because like I wasn't a drawer or I'm not the super like most like artistic person. So I just never really like dove in or committed myself to that. So yeah, it's kind of funny like how I'm sitting here. I'm like, I'm a tattoo artist and it's probably the best thing I've ever done for myself. And
Oh,
I'm super proud of myself and my work. And
yeah.
every time like I just do a piece, I just am like, oh my gosh, like I did that. That is beautiful. Like the confidence in what I'm doing is just totally different from in my
Oh,
previous career. So, everything happens for a reason. And I
yeah.
feel like I definitely went through a lot of things and learned a lot to get to where I am right now, where
Yep.
it doesn't feel like work. I don't feel like work. Like sometimes I have to pinch myself because like every day is exciting and the people I meet. So yeah, it's definitely been a great journey for me in my
I love
business.
I love that. Now, how did it
Yeah.
come about? Like, did you just one
Oh
day
my
you're like
gosh.
seeing other people do it, or did you find a training? Like, how did it
Yeah.
specifically come about for you?
Um, so many things kind of led, but I would say it was that COVID period that we kind of all went through like a
Yep.
weird phase of like
Hmm.
what's happening, what's going on. And during that time as well, I was pregnant with my youngest. So there was just a lot of changes going on with me. Also, like just with my business, kind of touching on lashes, like I built my business so successfully and just had clients booked out. But it was really high demand, and I was just struggling because I needed the flexibility. I'm a new mom. Like with my first child, like I worked like all the time. I would bring him to work with me, So this time I wanted to do it differently. I just wanted that time with him. So I had to kind of figure out a way like what makes sense for me. And two, when I was going back after my maternity leave, I just noticed my passion wasn't there. And that's when I really started listening to my intuition. Like, I'm going to work and I'm not feeling that spark. And I was like, okay, maybe I just need another class. And I was like, I've taken so many classes because I really pride myself on education. I was like, I don't think that's it. There's just something not connecting with me anymore. So definitely a lot of my industry friends, one of my friends, specifically C from C Beauty,
Hmm.
she got into permanent makeup. And she always kind of said, like, you should get into this. Like, it's going to be up and coming and growing. Like, you got to stay ahead of the curve. And I was like, I'm just not into brows. Like, that's just too much for me. So then she kind of finished her apprenticeship and then got into it and then started up her apprenticeship. And then one of my other good friends, Lisa from oh my gosh, she's changed her name, Artistry. I'll figure that one out again.
Yeah.
But she was in my studio with me and we're really close. And so I saw her start her journey of permanent makeup. And then I ended up being a model for lip blushing. And so I was like, oh, that kind of looks good. So as I'm sitting there getting the service done of lip blushing, like, I was like, I like this. I think I could do this. Because brows, I was like, no, too much pressure. But I was like, maybe lips could like I could probably, start off with that. So, anyways, I was like, you know what? I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to do the apprenticeship with C. She's a great educator, great learner, or great teacher. So I ended up signing up with her apprenticeship. And then I started with lip blushing. It was very nerve-wracking at first, but just with her patience, I really pushed through it, and I really started liking it and enjoying it. But I noticed I felt like it was a little bit too repetitious for me, kind of like the same thing over and over again. I was like, oh, I'm feeling like this is kind of what I was feeling like with lashes. Um, and I was just like, oh, I kind of got a little nervous, and I was halfway through my apprenticeship. And then kind of circling back to Lisa, she ended up getting into tiny tattoos. And I was like, I think one of her first or second models. I was like, just practice on me. I have all these tattoos, just do it. Like, you're fine. And so like we just had a good conversation, and she was just so supportive, and I just really admire her and like how she, changed her business and found her passion. And I was like, teach me tiny tattoos. And she did. And ever since, I just was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And so then the rest of my apprenticeship, I just did tiny tattoos. But the nice part about it is I feel like that permanent makeup background, you're working with the delicate needles, you're working with the same machinery. So it really transferred. And even I feel like my skill set with lash extensions, the steady hand, the tediousness, like, kind of getting over like those nerves, like it kind of just like transferred over. So I feel like it was a pretty smooth transition for me. And I just kind of dived in, and I think the passion and the joy I felt like doing this, and the excitement, it just, everything else just kind of meshed together. So then fast forward to, it will almost be my 2 years of tattooing in May. I have my own tattoo studio in Bloomington, and it's just been going great. Like, I've taken my business to like just the next level, like financially, also like the freedom, the flexibility. Like, I feel like I can enjoy my kids more. Like, I can, do the things that I need to take care of myself. I don't feel burnt out or just, constant chaos. So I feel like even during that time, I kind of like found myself, and like, what does this look like moving forward? How can I restructure my business? So just kind of through this journey, I just learned a lot as an entrepreneur. And it kind of pushed me to where I feel like I'm to a point where I'm like, wow, like I worked so hard to now I have, again, financial freedom and physical freedom. And that was my goal while working in this industry for 10 years. And I'm glad I'm there. And I'm just excited to like where this leads the next 10 years. I'm always, always trying to figure out the next thing, as as entrepreneurs in the industry. We're just kind of like, how do you keep up with the curve? How do you keep up? How do you, make your business sustainable? So I've kind of, yeah, it's been a journey figuring that out, but it's been
Yay.
worth it.
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing all that with us, because listen, I'm sure there's somebody listening that is going to be able to relate to your story, because the service industry, specifically the beauty industry, it is one of those things where you have to show up 100% all the time. And if you're not vibing with the service, or if you're not feeling that, true pull or ambition or motivation. And I love how you listen to that, because I will say there's a lot of us in the industry, not necessarily including myself or excluding myself, I should say. Some of that's true for me too. And that's why I started my coaching business. But like, if you're feeling like a certain way about a service, and actually I just had a class last week about this, of how the person was like, I have a full-time job. I'm starting my business on the side. I don't necessarily feel as inspired when I go to my business because I'm exhausted from my physical job. And I was thinking, you know, that could be true for like if you're making a transition like you did, of like you don't know why you're feeling the way you're feeling, but like obviously COVID allowed you to feel that way, right? Because COVID was like we had to shut down, we had to kind of refocus in a sense, because we had that downtime. We were
Yep.
closed for 2.5 months in Minnesota. So like I think like, sometimes in our life, we just have these transitions that happen, and we have to like trust that okay, there's something going on here and I need to explore it. And I think that was like the smartest thing you ever did, right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of times we don't do that in life. We have to consistently maybe do something because it is paying the bills, or we have outside voices telling us like, okay, we have to do that because this is what you're good at, or this is the only thing you're good at, so I think like I commend you, because like there's probably so many people that are listening that it takes a lot of courage to make that switch that you did, or to follow that in that intuition or that instinct, like, and so I think that's so cool. But I do think like the other portion that I listened to that I really resonate with is you had people around you that cared about you, that were interested in your success, that were willing to share information with you, that wanted to see you succeed. And I think that's really important for our industry as well. Like we have to sit there and support each other, and we have to, even though you're doing the same thing that those two people that you mentioned are doing, they still supported you. So I think that's huge too, because there's enough space for all of us. And I feel like I say this almost with every episode. So like people are probably so sick of me saying that if they listen to my podcast, but like there's enough space for everybody, and we're all unique in our own ways, and we're all going to offer something in our own ways, and in the unique way that we do it. And we're going to attract the people that are for that. And so I think that's so cool. But like the fact that you just kept on doing it because you knew and you really felt drawn to it, that was so amazing. So I'm so happy for you, because like obviously like you're coming onto the other side of what you originally wanted, like you said, time freedom and money freedom, right? Like, and those are really things that people are striving for. I think every listener can agree with that. We want something in our career that is not only going to satisfy our soul, satisfy like what we're doing every day, but yes, you need to think about like if you have kids or other responsibilities outside of work, your business or your job has to coexist with that. And sometimes it's not, and that's okay too. Like, so I recommended that person that was in my class last week to like, it's hard to do this nowadays, but like find a job that you don't care about, like that doesn't draw a lot of energy out of you, that doesn't obviously can still pay your bills, but like because that focus does have to be on the business and like that passion, you know what I'm saying? Like if this is how you're going to make your money, obviously I had a job for the first 2 years I started my business, and I understood it. Like you have to pay your bills while you're starting something. So understandably so, but like you have to understand that shift or that focus that needs to be had. And you really understood that. And you were like, I got to dive right into this. And I'm so glad you did, because look at you now, like how amazing is that? So like, if you're listening, you're kind of in the same position where you're thinking about making something, we're going to call these life choices, right? Everything in life, do it, you guys. Like it is, and you're never going to know until you try. So like I actually did microblading for a while. Paige knows this because I saw her.
I remember.
That was during my apprenticeship, and I offered it for like 2 years after that, and I just did not like it. I didn't have a passion for it, and so I stopped offering it. And but I would have never known that if I would have never been through that program, if I didn't ever try and I didn't ever dive into the pool. So like I think there's something to be said about trying something and maybe it's not working, but like in your instance, what you tried and what that intuition was telling you, it did work out, and it's working out so gloriously that like it's an inspiration. So like, I love that. Thank you for sharing your story today. Thank you for sharing so much, because like I know that there's going to be some listeners that are going to feel inspired by this and hopefully make some really amazing choices. Now, Paige, like I said earlier, where can people find you online if they want to check out your work, and where are you mostly online?
Yeah, so mainly Instagram.
Okay.
And my Instagram is at p-inc mn. And that's where you can find me and check out my work. And hopefully I will be seeing you.
Yes. And I will put everything in the show notes, you guys. So if you're, curious and you want to check her out, you can just click on the link in the show notes and it'll bring you right there. And thank you so much, Paige, for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you liked that episode and found something useful or a tip that you can use immediately. If you are wanting more marketing tips, business tips, or anything like that, I have a lot of resources on my website. So I have PDFs that you can download for free. So look in your show notes. There should be a link in the show notes that you can click on, and it'll take you right to my coaching website. And thanks for listening.